Alright, to make a pie crust, I have 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour in the bowl. To that, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of sugar. What I'm going to do is take the pastry blender and combine the dry ingredients together. This is very important to incorporate the sugar and the salt into the flour because you don't want a lump of salt or sugar in one spot in your pie crust. So I have 2/3 of a cup of butter flavored Crisco, which is a nice alternative for people who have an intolerance to dairy products. You can use the butter flavored Crisco in place of butter, and it has a good flavor without all the dairy. Okay, once I have the shortening broken up, into little pieces, I'm going to take my pastry cutter, and I like to go a little bit of a rotating motion while I'm turning the bowl, and I'm cutting the butter in. This is called cutting in the butter. You want to clean it off of your pastry cutter a little bit, and I'm going to cut in the butter until it's a little bit bigger than pea-sized crumbles. And what this is doing is coating the shortening with the flour, so it's going to have little pockets of shortening in the pie crust, which is going to make it a flaky, nice pie crust. Okay, so now I have the shortening incorporated into the flour. Clean off my pastry cutter. I'm going to switch to a spatula, and I have some ice water. I'm going to dump a little bit of ice water in, and I'm going to start mixing it around. Use a sweeping motion around the back side of the bowl, and then cut down the center. Sweeping around the side, and then cut down the center. And you're going to incorporate all of the water into the flour mixture until it sticks together. It's going to act like it needs a lot more water, but it's surprising how little water it'll take to get this to come together. So again, with the sweeping motion around the back side of the bowl, and you can keep rotating the bowl so that you don't get any stuck on the edges. I'm cleaning off the edge with the edge of the spatula, cutting down and through the dough. And now you can see it's starting to come together a little bit. You can take a chunk and lift it up and see how it holds together. It's almost there. It just needs a little bit more water. Keep cutting and going around, and you'll see the dough is starting to come together. It'll act like it needs more water, but now let's look. I think that's about right. That's getting about sticky enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to form this into a ball, and then I'm going to take some flour, sprinkle it on my cutting board, and we're going to roll this out on the cutting board, and I'll show you why in a minute once I get it together. Okay, so I've brought it together into a ball. Get my rolling pin, sprinkle a little flour on top, and put some flour on my rolling pin, and start to roll out the crust. You want your pie crust, it doesn't look like it's sticking together real well, but that's how you want it, because that's going to be a very light, flaky crust, which is what you want. Now I'm rolling, always roll from the center when you're rolling out the crust. Roll out from the center, which will help you make a little bit more of a even circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pie plate. I'm going to set the pie plate down like that, okay? And you can tell by the edges how there's not very much sticking out here. So I'm going to roll it out just a little bit more. You want to feel it on the cutting board to feel for the even thickness of the crust. Okay. Now, this is why I rolled out the pie crust onto a cutting board, because now instead of having to roll the crust up on your rolling pin and then try and roll it back out in the pie plate, or folding it in force and then putting it in the pie plate and unfolding it, you simply flip the cutting board and the pie crust is in the pie plate. And then you're going to want to very gently lift up on the edges and tuck it down into the corner, into the edge, bottom edge of the pie plate, okay? I have a simple butter knife, and I'm going to take a little bit off. I want just a little bit sticking over, about a half a knuckle. Might be a whole knuckle for you depending on the size of your hands. These are pretty good mitts. Alright, so I'm going to try and evenly cut this around the edge. Brush some of the flour off. Oh, I still got a little more here. Okay, brush some of the flour off. And this is the tried and true way to crimp a pie crust. You're going to have your fingers like that, and you lift up and push the pie crust together on the edges, a little at a time. And you're going to go all the way around with the alternating finger pattern crust. Okay, so I still have a little hanging off. You just take the knife and you can go around and have the knife up against the edge of the pie plate. There we go. And there is your pie crust. And you can put this in the refrigerator until you're ready to fill it.